Hello, I'm John Cole Morgan and welcome back to Sewing Street. It's 9 o'clock on a Friday, so it's block of the week time today. I am really excited about this block of the week and I'm so excited to see everybody's different pictures and progress on our Facebook fans page as well as on our Sewing Street page. Really great to hear from you. And I've had a couple of questions come in from people which I'm hoping I'm going to be able to answer for you in this hour. But let's show you where we are. We are going to be doing block 6 this week, which looks like this. So this block fits in over here. That's our block 6 that we're doing there. And because we're on block 6, we're going to show you quickly the blocks that we've done previously. This is block 1. So block 1 that we did the first time, that slots in over here. And then we've also done block 2, which pops in over here. And now if you're watching these blocks 1 and 2 and thinking, oh, I didn't know about it, what are you talking about? You're still able to join in. They're all available on the website, so you can go join at any point. All these fabrics are exclusive to Sewing Street. That's where our block 3 slotted in. All the fabrics are exclusive to Sewing Street, so you'll never have to worry about not being able to take part. We'll always be able to have the fabric available for you. This was our block 4, just checking I got these in the right order. So block 4 fitted in there. And then you've got block 5 as well. And block 5 was that one there. So now you know exactly where we are because we're now halfway through this process. So we've got a 13-week program, 12 weeks to make the 12 blocks. So you've got 3, 6, 9. And let me pick this up and I'll show you the bottom bit. And you've got 3 blocks on the bottom as well. My arm's not quite long enough to show you those 3 there. But the great thing about these quilts is that they're completely non-directional, so you can have them however you like them. So next week when we get to number 7, which is the bottom half of the quilt, we might hang the quilt the other way around and you can see it's completely non-directional. So what are you going to get when you order one of these block of the weeks? First thing you're going to get, first pick your colour. We've got 3 colourways. This is our Brights colourway here, which is really fun and vibrant and really, really exciting on that. We've got our wonderful blues collection over here, which I love. And then we've got our, this is the most popular, and you can see why. These gorgeous greens and greys and pinks really, really work very well. And I think I'm matching that today. So this is the most popular colorway we have, followed by this one, and followed by this one. But there's not much difference between them all. It doesn't mean that that one's sold out and we've only sold 2 or 3 of these. There's not much difference between them. So it's all very, very popular colors. And when you order them, you're going to get a block with instructions. I'm not going to hold that around too long so you can see where they are. And also, you're going to get this fabulous panel of fabric. Now look at this. So let me get this the right way around. So this is how much fabric you're going to get for this week. Each week will change, so some weeks you'll have slightly more of one colour, slightly less of another colour. It just depends how much fabric you need for each one. So that's what's happening with this. Each week you're going to be left with fabric. There is just no question. There is so much fabric here. You're never going to use them all in being able to do it. Now when you get your fabric, you're going to see just over here there's a little label, and over there, and over there, and over there. You've got a tiny little bit of white fabric, a little white block there, which tells you what they are. And I'll show you that in all 3 colorways, just in case you think it's only on the blue. It's not. It's on all 3 colorways. So you can see there's fabric 1, and this is the vintage colorway. That's the blue colorway, and that's fabric 1. That's fabric 2, that's fabric 3, and then as we move along, you've got fabric 4 over here. Oh. So there's fabric 4 on the blue colorway, and then on the vintage colorway, you've got fabric 4 here. So why is that important? I hear you asking through the screen going, what are you talking about? So when we were writing this pattern, it was very difficult to try and come up with a way of being able to show all the different colours that we've done. So what we did was we did our colourway in pink, grey, black and white. So we called fabric 1 white, and then we called fabric 2 pink, and so on. So you'll be able to see we always refer to fabric 1, fabric 2, fabric 3 and fabric 4. It's really important you know that because that's the bit you're cutting out. So that is the blue colourway. You're going to get your instructions and that wonderful big panel. So that's the blue. And I'm really, really proud of the fact that this has been such a well-received project. And we've even had people asking if we can carry on doing blocks of the week after lockdown's lifted. Because what our plan with this is because we've got locked down and everybody is staying at home, we wanted there to be a project for everybody to be able to enjoy and to be able to take part in and to do together as a project on social media, to take part that way. But also it gives us something to look forward to. So you know every Friday I'm going to be showing you how to do the next week's block. Then you can then take part in that and then that block will arrive the following week. It's just such a great project and everybody's really, really responded well to it. It's great. So that's our vintage colourway. So you'll get vintage colours there as well as the wonderful pattern. And then last but not least, we've also got our Brights colourway. Got the wonderful Brights colourway there as well. And then you've got not only have you got this wonderful panel, and there's a lot of fabric here. And you get my name on it. And then you also get the wonderful instructions as well with that bundle. So this block is going to look like that in the blue. This is what the finished product will look like. And it will look like this in the vintage. And then lastly, you're going to get this in the Brights. And I promise you, after doing this block this week, you are going to know your half square triangles better than you ever have before, and you're going to love it, because I told you you will. So let me start by doing what I like to be able to do is each week to be able to show you exactly how to make the whole block. Some weeks I'm not going to have enough time because the block takes a little bit more than 40 minutes to make in some weeks. This week may very well be one of those weeks. But the first thing you're going to do, you can do this by using scissors or you can do it by using rotary cutter. For time, I'm going to do the rotary cutter method today. And what you're going to do is you're going to line your ruler. This is a really great ruler to use, the 24.5 by 6.5 inch ruler. You're going to line this up with the edge of your colourway and the white, and you're going to cut that off. Oh, I've just gone off my mat there. Just that little bit too far. So all I'm doing is I'm separating my four colours from one another. And again, you can do this with a pair of scissors, you can do this with a rotary cutter, however works best for you. But I do ask you, please, if you are using a rotary cutter, make sure you cut away from you. And the one thing that would be really handy to have to use is a rotating cutting mat. And you're clearing off the white from the front there. Now, when you cut this, I've been very good and I've managed to cut all the white off. But over here, let's look at this example over here. You'll be able to see that when I've cut this, I've got a little bit of green left on my white fabric. But when you're cutting this, you may end up with a little bit of white left on your fabric. So you can do one of two things. You can either cut that fabric off, the white off, or if it's less than 1/4 of an inch, it's going to be hidden in your seam allowance. So it doesn't really matter that it's on there. You must just do what's comfortable for you. So over here you can see I've got a tiny little hair of pink just on the edge there. You can see it's a tiny, tiny smidgen of pink over there, and it is tiny, you can barely see it. I am not bothered about that at all. I'm leaving that be, and that is going to stay there and then be part of my seam allowance. Ooh. And again, I'm hearing vintage is in the lead already. It's been selling really well already this week, which is great. Now, the first thing I do as well, you'll notice that I've just cut off what I'm calling fabric 3. That's important. Put it to one side, don't put it too far away from you. Reason being, as you get through this process and you do it a number of times, you're going to forget which your fabric 1, 2, and 3 is, especially when there's a little break between it. You will forget. Nothing wrong with that. And the great thing is you can now put, oh, I didn't cut the beginning bit there. So I've got my fabric 1, my fabric 2, and I just cut these off because it just makes my life that little bit easier when I am doing the pattern. I can then put 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the pattern, and I know exactly where I am. I do find it's a lot easier cutting these off now and separating them out at the very beginning. If you found a better way of doing it, you must do what's comfortable for you. This is just what works best for me and how I recommend it. It doesn't mean you have to do it that way. There we go. And this takes a little bit of time, but I wanted to make sure that I did it for you, that you can then just feel confident that you've seen how I'm doing it. Because sometimes getting a giant panel in the post, you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do with that? So at least I'm here showing you exactly how to do it. And I was really pleased. We had one of the comments come through that one of the ladies said, oh, I don't know how to cut this out. Please show me. So I was really pleased she did that because it's actually one of those logical things, because I've cut out loads of different things before, but that doesn't mean you have. So it's nice to be able to show you exactly what you're doing each week from beginning to end. Right, so that's my fabric number 1. So I'm going to put that over my sewing machine. And now I'm coming up to, now I'm just going to trim these off. And I'm standing behind my rotary cutter to make sure it's safe. Getting that off there, so that's now cut off, that's cut off. And then I'm trimming these down as well. That's our second colorway. So I'll put that over there. We've already got our third colorway, which I'd lost for 2 seconds then. There's our third colorway. And then this is our fourth colorway. Now on here you'll see what I meant about cutting and leaving a little bit of the pink on. I didn't intend to do this, it just happened. And just like I'm sure many of us will do, this is how it goes. You can see just over here I've left a little bit of the pink on. So you've got one of two options. I know that'll be hidden in my seam allowance, but if you want to, you just neaten it up. It's entirely up to you how you do it. And it didn't cut, so it's going to be part of my seam allowance now. And there we go, we've got number 4. This is now our fabric marking number 4 here. And that's our fabric 4. So we've now cut these all out. There we go. Now I'm hearing we've had a message in from Sandra. Thank you for messaging in, Sandra. Oh, she's saying, John, you're my most favourite presenter. You're very sweet. The check's in the post, sweetheart. Loving block of the week. And she's saying it's great to learn the different ways of patchworking if you're new to sewing. Oh, I'm lovely. I'm so pleased you're enjoying it. Thank you so much, Sandra. That's very, very kind of you. I love getting all your messages in. Thank you. Keep them coming in. And have a great day. Right, so the first thing we're going to do here, in the pattern, you're going to see that I have done 2 sets of cutting instructions. This is for people who are complete beginners versus people who are a little bit more advanced. You're going to be able to cut your squares 2 different ways. If you're very advanced and you're completely comfortable with this, great. You cut it to the size per the picture. And it's in the instructions. Sorry, is there a rattle on this? You'll be able to see the instruction size that you're cutting if you're feeling very advanced. Otherwise, you're going to cut them a little bit bigger and we're going to trim them down. I've been sewing for quite a while, so I feel more comfortable cutting them a bit bigger and trimming down because you get a much more concise block and a much nicer size to be able to make sure that it all finishes. So one of the questions, now while I'm going to be cutting these out to the size that I know they've got to be, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I've had asked during the week. Now, I feel very confident cutting multiple layers on different ways. You do this how you prefer. If you want to take your cutter and cut your squares like that, one at a time, that's what you do. I have done this many, many times, so I feel confident cutting so many layers. Please do not do it if you don't feel confident doing it this way. It's just what I feel is better for me, and I'm on live telly. I'm trying to get the block finished. So bear with me and just do what works best for you. So one of the questions I have seen asked is, oh my goodness, my block doesn't measure the right size, it's slightly wrong, what do I do? Do I unpick it? My answer to you is very simply, no. Don't unpick it. If you want to unpick it, go ahead, but you don't need to. In week 13, I'm going to show you a couple of tricks of how to hide if your block is slightly bigger and how to make things that little bit. Every single block, every seam allowance, everything that you do, every way you cut things, things will be slightly different. If I make this block today and I make it another day, it'll come in at a different size. That's just life. We do things differently. We are sometimes inconsistent with things. So please don't worry if you're slightly out on your block. Obviously, if your block comes in at 18 inches, you've done something wrong. And by that, I mean, if you've got less than 1/4 of an inch, if you've got more than, so let's say less than 1/2 an inch as your difference, I wouldn't do anything. If you're a little bit more than 1/2 an inch to an inch, I would say then we'll just drop me a message and we'll have a chat about it. But having a smaller size block, you will be absolutely fine. In week 13, I will show you exactly how we're going to bring that all down to make life that little bit easier for you and get your block to match up perfectly. So please don't worry if your block's not exactly 15.5 inches. We will get it there. So, I'm then cutting these into triangles. Oh, I didn't cut those through nicely at the beginning. Just want to double check how many I'm doing of fabric 4. Right, I've got to do one more of them. No, I don't. Well, I've had a message in from Jan Hill. Hello, darling, how are you? She's saying, good morning, John. Loving the shirt. That is very kind. Thank you, darling. Hope you're having a great day. Right, so I need to cut. I'm done with that one. Right. Now again, I am cutting loads of different squares here. You do what's comfortable for you. You don't have to cut like this. You do what's comfortable for you. And don't forget, if you haven't joined in with us before, all the weeks, all 6 blocks are all available on the website. You can buy all the different ones that you've missed out on, and all the YouTube videos are available on the Sewing Street channel, so you will easily be able to catch up with everything that you've missed. You don't have to worry, you're not going to be able to be left out, you're not going to be left behind. You'll easily be able to catch up on that. 1, 2, 3, 4... Right, so this is all the fabric you're going to have left over, loads of it, so you can save that for another day. And as I've said before, I am very confident with what I'm doing with this. Please don't cut too much if you're not comfortable. Actually, I think I'm going to split that because that looks quite big. And the great thing with the instructions is I am a very visual person, so I like my pictures. I need to know what it's going to be looking like at the end. So you'll find loads of pictures in the instructions as well. So you'll be able to do that. And I've loved the fact that we've had people who've never quilted before and thought, actually, this looks quite fun. We're going to give this a go. And it's been really nice to be able to see your messages. And a lot of you have messaged me personally as well, which I've loved. Thank you for that. And I love seeing all your different blocks and how you've made out with them. I think it's great. Oh, we've had another message in from Maureen. Morning, Maureen. She's saying, hello, John and everybody else at Sewing Street. Morning. Thank you for keeping us company. Oh, she's going to make her block of the month when she's finished her design roll race. Oh, how wonderful. Which will be her first ever quilt. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that. She's got a question. Should I use a different needle than a universal needle to do quilting? So yes, you definitely do. The reason is you need to have a slightly thicker needle for quilting because obviously going through so many more layers. So what you need to do there, it's called a quilting needle. I can't remember off the top of my head if they are 90 by 14 or 100 by 16. I always get my needles the other way around, but I think it's a 90 or 100 needle you need. But it's called a quilting needle, and you can get them at any haberdashery. You'll easily be able to find those as well. But we are actually looking at getting a whole load of needles in, so bear with us. We'll get into that very, very soon. Right, so I'm looking at two of those, and two of those. Right. So then you just refer to the pattern, and what you're going to do is you're going to sew up various blocks. So these are my fabrics 3 and fabric 4. I'm also going to sew fabric 1. Now just remember, you get these the right way round. Don't do what I did the other day and sew these backwards. You're going to do number 1. You're going to split those because you're doing half with fabric number 1 and fabric number 2 over here. And then you're doing half with fabric number 4 and fabric number 1. Just double checking how many I'm making of these. So that's 6 of these, 2 of those, and 8 of those, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, right. So 6. And then you're just quite simply going to take these. Now you can chain piece these. I do suggest you use what I've called a donkey. All that is when you're starting to do your stitching on these, you will find when you put your triangles together, so you've got these 2 triangles, you're going to fold them onto each other. These tiny little bits here sometimes get sucked into your sewing machine and go, and they just get very annoying. So what I do is I put this little piece of fabric here, and I start stitching on the piece of fabric. And as I get close to the needle there, you can see I'm just putting that point on the donkey so that the fabric edge is not actually raw. It's actually being protected by that donkey. Now, a couple of weeks ago, it was 2 weeks ago, I did that lesson on scant 1/4 inches. Now, if you're an experienced sewer, and you haven't done your quilts blocks here a little bit bigger, you will then be able to carry on doing your scant 1/4 inch without any problem. On this one, the scant 1/4 inch isn't that important because we're going to trim these down at the end of the hour. At the end of the process, you're going to be able to trim these down to a certain size, so you don't really need to worry about your scant 1/4 inch, which is another reason I've given you that advantage of making your blocks just that little bit bigger when you cut them, that you don't need to. If you're feeling a little bit nervous about doing the scant 1/4 inch or you're not quite sure how to do it, this is a lot more forgiving, this method, in being able to just ignore that completely and just sew as you normally would. we go. So I'm going to chain piece all of these in the hope that I've got enough time to finish the block for you. I'm not sure I will, but I'll show you. You'll do exactly the same thing for each one of these half square triangles once it's done. So we've done half the block now we've sewn together. And now we're going to carry on doing our number 1 and 2s. And we're going to make 8 of these. So if anybody who hasn't done chain piecing before, all that means is you're just feeding the fabrics in one after the other and just sewing them all together in one go. Over here as well, you've got the bias going through the foot of the needle, through the foot of the sewing machine at the moment. You can tell I'm not guiding it, I'm not pressing it, I'm not doing anything. I'm just letting the machine do its work and just letting it all go through nice and comfortably. And again, if your seam is slightly out, don't worry, because we've got that advantage of being able to trim these down afterwards. And we're about to do our last one. Hopefully it's our last one. Yes, I think it is. And there we go. Got our thread cutter there, just cuts that nicely. And then all you're going to do is, we've got all of these together in a nice little bunting-esque little row. You're just now going to separate these all along. I've got this fabulous thread cutter on the edge of the sewing machine here, so I find that's the easiest way of doing them. And you've got your little donkey at the end there if you need to do that for the next session. So now we've got all of those there. The next step is to make sure that we now press these. Now normally, as you know, I love pressing everything open. Today, because of time, I'm going to now press to the dark side. I'm going to make sure that I set my seams like I do always, well, 99% of the time, and then I'm just rolling that back to the dark side. So you can see that your fabric here, the dark side of your fabric, everything is going towards the darkest side. The reason you do that is if you've got if you press to the light side and your seam shows, you'll be able to then potentially see a bit of the darker fabric through the light fabric, and we're just trying to avoid that. So when you've done these, I'm going to separate these into 3 separate piles. So that is my 6.3 that I've got over there. This is my 6.2. Oh, I'm hearing good news that people who have not done this before are checking out on block 1. Really great to hear. Thank you so much for taking part. And you've got it in different colorways as well. So if you've really enjoyed this process, you can get them in different colorways. And I do actually know somebody who's got this in 3 different colorways. They are just so addictive and the fabrics are so vibrant. And they're totally different looks as well. So you can see why people may buy 1 or 2 more in different colorways, because they're a great project. And you get to take part and be involved in that whole social media aspect of things, which is great. So that's our 6.2. Now we're going to do our 6.1. So I'm making sure I've got my pink on the top. Now, obviously, in this colorway, this is now my 6.1 block. Obviously, in this one, my fabric 2 is pink. Depending which colorway you're doing, it may not be pink. Just make sure you refer. So these two are fabrics 1 and 2. If you do have an unruly triangle that will not press to the dark side, all you're going to do there is you just rotate it round. So you press that like that. And if it isn't working very well, you just go back and rotate it there. The important thing is to make sure that the seam that you're sewn isn't going to be distorted. So it all keep that nice and straight. That's the aim of the game here, is to keep that nice and straight. There was a bit of schmutz there, sorry about that. And this pressing mat is fabulous because you can put it on top of your work, take it away, and then put it straight back on top of your work and carry on pressing when you need to. Like I'm about to. And you do need to press at each stage. It just makes your life that little bit easier. And please, for your partners at home, if like me you don't iron, just remind your partner you're pressing, you're not ironing. Nice try, Andrew, nice try. So there we go. We've now got 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3. Keep those here, so I'm going to line those up again. So my next step is I'm going to take two 6.1s and I'm going to sew those together. But before I do that, I'm now going to square this half square triangle up. So on this fabulous 6-inch ruler that we've got here, you've got this 45-degree line here. That is the line that you're going to match up with that seam. Really important that you do that, because if you do that and you square the block up, it's not going to be straight. You're not going to end up with a good point. So you keep that lined up as straight along that line as you can. And because we're going to trim all 4 sides, not just 2 sides, you can see the size that you're going to go to is in the pattern. You're then going to rotate this. So you've got a bit of space on this side and a bit of space on that side. Hold that down nice and firm, and you go like that. Now, you'll see when I do this on this mat, you can see it's a pain. You've got to pick the fabric up each time. It's annoying. You've got to reposition your ruler. It takes a little bit longer. So it's fine. You can do it on this mat. The mat is absolutely fine. However, I cannot tell you how much this is going to change your life on it. If nothing else, when you're bored, you get to do that. And when you're bored still, you do that. When people are chatting to you on the phone, you can't be bothered, you just do that and you get distracted by it. It's a nice little technique to be able to do. But what you're doing with this is you keep your ruler, doing exactly the same as I've just done. Line that up like that. Trim off these 2 sides. Leave your ruler in place. Rotate round. And move it down. And I'll show you another trick as well, because these creative grid rulers are very clever. I'll show you another trick I learned when I did this. Because the thing is, you do have to square up 16 of these triangles. So that's 64 cuts that you've got to make. Every single thing that I can do to save myself time on it, I'm going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate my ruler so that over here you can see you've got the 1 and the 1. You've got the 1 and the 1. So what I'm doing here is I'm lining this up over there. My central line is exactly the same. And I'm just going to take a little bit of fabric off the edge there. Not a lot, just a small little bit. In fact, I'm going to take even less than that. Okay. Do that. Get rid of those. Rotate your ruler around. And now I don't even have to pick my ruler up. I just slide it down to the size I need it to be. Make sure that that's on my central line. And I trim. So I haven't even had to pick up my ruler. All I've done is I've just used both sides of my ruler to get that to the size that I need it to be. Isn't that a simple method that you hadn't even thought of to do? I think it's a nice simple way of being able to utilize your tools to the best of their abilities. And now I've just done it completely the other way just because I forgot. We'll all do the same thing. So you can see I'm not squaring all of these off only because I'm a little bit worried I might not have enough time to do the full block. Oh, come on. I had a message in from Yasmin. Hello, Yasmin. Just wants to say a big thank you to everyone at Sewing Street. Oh, for keeping the programs going throughout the whole of lockdown. It's so appreciated. Oh, Yasmin, that's really lovely to hear. Thank you. It's not been easy, and we've been doing everything we can, and we're just so grateful to all of you who keep watching and keep supporting us. It's really, really a great testament to this community that we live in, that everybody has been so kind and supportive. And where things have taken a little bit longer to get to you, or the calls have taken a little longer because we're making sure everybody's safe, we really are very grateful for all of your patience and understanding. We're all doing our very best, and we're so grateful for your support. Thank you. So now again, I'm just going to trim up 3 or 4 of each of these just to make sure. I'm hoping I've got enough then to do the whole lot. And there we go. What's my time like? Oh, okay. Should be able to do the whole lot. We'll see how we go. Right. So you can see this does get a little bit laborious. I put a little bouncy music track on in the background, get a little bit of a bounce going. But then when you get a bit of a bounce going, you sometimes cut your blocks wrong. So just take your time, do it safely. I'll cut a few more of these. But I told you at the end of this block, you're going to know how to do your half square triangles better than you ever did before. But it's great because once you've learnt this on this project, you'll be able to then look at half square triangles in a different way going forward. And you'll see that when you sew these together, you'll be able to get a totally different feel on doing a larger triangle and trimming it down. Yes, it's that little bit extra work where you've got to cut all 4 sides each time, but it does give you such a more crisp finish, and it does make the block work so, so well. Oops. And remember, all 6 of the bundles in all 3 colorways are all available to you on the web. So if you want to join in today and you haven't, you can buy all 6 of them in one go. And remember, you're only paying the 1-day P&P. So if you've already bought something in the last 2 hours, you don't have to pay the postage and packaging again. You've already paid it. So I'm working on the vintage colorway, which has been very, very popular. Closely followed by the blue, and then very close behind that is the brights. And now you can see in every project you look at or have already looked at, you'll see half square triangles are really very, very popular in every project that comes up. Well, most projects that come up. So this is just a nice way of being able to learn how to do your half square triangles, how to square them all up, make sure they're all central, make sure they're all cut to the same size. It just makes your life that little bit easier. And I'm determined I'm going to finish this block. Hopefully we'll have enough time, and you'll see now I'm cutting all 16 of these blocks now, getting them all to the right size, making sure that this 1/4 inch, the 45-degree line in the middle lines up to your seam line, getting that all nice and accurate. Only 3 more to go. I know it's not the most exciting thing to watch. But if you're a beginner, you're able to see exactly how to make each and every single bit along the way. But it's people as well who've made these quilts together, or who've made these quilts before, or feel that they're a little bit more confident with sewing. You may pick up a different trick, like that ruler trick there that I showed you with this fabulous quarter-inch Fabulous Creative Grids ruler, which I've completely forgotten and stopped doing, only because I'm a bit worried if I do something wrong on national telly, I'm going to get it, I'll never live it down. So I want to make sure that I get this right. But there's so many different things that as sewers, it doesn't matter how long you've been sewing for, you're always going to learn new things. It doesn't matter what you're doing, everything is always new and you can learn. But also starting it from the beginning to the end makes life a little bit exciting. And you're doing it with us as well. Just go at the speed you want. If you're watching us back on YouTube, you can pause me at any time and I'll go, and then you carry on when you're ready. And there we go, we've cut them all out. Don't look under my board. Right, so now I'm going to lay these out in the order of the block. The finished block is what it's going to look like. And this is the bit where it does look complex, but I promise you, just take your time. No one's rushing you. Oh, wrong one. And there we go. That is what we're going to be making. So it is now really, really simple. I'm going to sew these ones together, all 4 of these together first. That's going to be my first task. Now, when I'm sewing these together, when you fold them on top of each other, you're going to be able to see here, you've got loads of different layers on this section. So what I would suggest is not hold those nice and tight, get everything lined out, but start sewing from this side rather than this side, because your machine's going to struggle to go over those initial layers first of all. So I'm going to line this up on that edge, and I'm going to make sure I keep my 1/4 inch. Now this is where a scant 1/4 inch is really, really important. And because I've got the fabulous 560, I'm going to sew off that little block. I'm going to press my thread cutter, and then I'm going to pick up the next one that I'm doing. And the reason I've done that is then I don't have to unpick the threads as I go along. It's a really fabulous feature on this 560. And there we go. And I'm going to do the next one. Oh, I'm hearing hundreds of these block 6s have gone already. That's brilliant news. I'm not surprised because everybody's really enjoyed taking part. And if people haven't taken part yet, it's a lovely way to be involved in the community of sewing. And it's really great. And thank you all so much for your support. And you can see I forgot halfway through to do that. So now I'm doing that now. And now I'm going to bring back my lovely June Taylor pressing block. Grab all 4 of these, and this is where I'm going to press my seams open, only because when I match these seams up on the line above, I think it's a little bit easier doing it with open seams. But again, you must do what works best for you. Press that down, and then when you get to the other side, press that again. So that's my first one. And now when I'm pressing my seams open, all I'm doing is with my fingers, I'm just gently guiding the fabric open. I'm not in any way pressing, and then I'm using the nose of my iron to open the fabric. I'm not pressing down yet, and once I know everything's open, then I let it down. Nice and simple. Press that back like that, and you're done. And you're going to do that for all 4 of these. And that makes 6.4 in your design, in your pattern. And here we go. Again, I'm just gently holding the iron above that press line. Do that, and there we go. And there we go. So I've got 4 of those, and I put them back in the block as to where they go. I do think it's quite important that when you're building this block, you do try and put everything back as you sew it. So the next section I'm doing is, just want to double check, I'm doing these 2 together and these 2 together. So I'm going to put those together there, I'm going to put those together there, and I know I'm sewing on those sides. Now on this one, unfortunately, you do have a double layer at the bottom, so you just very slowly start off, don't go very fast. There we go. So just until you started. And there we go. And now I've thread cut that because the 560's got that fabulous option on that. And again, using my thread cutter there. And I've got my bits ready to do there. Again, I'm just holding that fabric open, putting the nose of my iron on there, pushing down, making sure I'm pressing it neatly, folding it back and doing that. Doing the same on this one. And there we go. So now we have put those together, and we know that my fabric 3 is green, if I'm not mistaken. That's going into the middle there. And then the only 2 bits left to sew are these 2. So I'm going to just do these while I'm at the machine. This is going slightly out of order for the pattern. And I've just got to pay careful attention to my top thread because my bobbin is full, but my top thread's very low. So I might need to just change my top thread in one more seam. Because I always find the bobbins are the things that run out, but we always forget to look at the top of the machine. We've all done it. And there we go. And there we go. You are now going to put that, wait, let me just check. Yes, so you've got the fabric 1 going in the middle there. So now we've got 4 different compartments. You're going to sew those 2 together, and you're going to sew those 2 together. Now, when you're sewing these 2 together, our fabulous early bird isn't. Where are my pins? There we go. So what you're going to do here is you want to make sure on here you can see where my white fabric and grey fabric are. You can see it's created that little triangle point there. That's roughly where you're wanting your needle to go through. So I'm putting the pin through there, and you can see that that's just gone perfectly into that section there. Then over here, now my point on this triangle is not spot on. Don't worry if yours isn't either. You just do the best that you can, and you won't be doing it on live telly in a time crunch. So you go there and you're just joining, you can see there my pin has gone just where that point is. And when you're at that point, you make sure then you line up both of these sides here. Got those lined up. This is where you need to grow an extra 2 or 3 fingers. You can see as I move my fabric, you can see there my pin isn't straight, but now my pin is completely straight. I make sure that I hold the fabric on one side completely straight, And then as I'm squeezing, I'm rotating this pin. But if you're not squeezing hard enough, you'll see that your fabric will actually move. So make sure you hold that really nice and tight, and then rotate your pin. And you can see I'm finagling the fabric underneath, and you're pinning that through all the way through. That wasn't the most graceful way of doing it, but it's a nice way of being able to show. And then when you're sewing, you're aiming to go that side, this side of the grey, in order to make sure that you hit that point. If you can hit that point exactly, you've won. You've won the award for best point in your quilt. If you don't, please don't worry. That is how you do it. If you are going to unpick it, don't unpick the whole block. You unpick about an inch that side and an inch that side of the point that you've missed, and just rearrange your fabric accordingly, because you do not need to undo the whole seam. So here you can see I'm approaching. Now my pin is now underneath my foot. Now I take my pin out. I leave the fabric there all lined up. Cross your fingers, click your heels, and hopefully I've nailed it. And if you haven't, there's nothing wrong with that. But I have. So there we go. That's what you're looking for. You're just looking for that little flying geese just to kiss that fabric there. Just looking for that tiny little kiss there. So that's a perfect point there. Watch the rest of them be completely wrong. Oh, there are the pins. Sorry, I keep moving things around my set. One of the ladies posted on the fans page today that she'd lost something in her sewing room, and her little daughter turned around and said, "Oh, Mummy, you're like John off Sewing Street. He's always losing things on the TV." Which I thought was very cute and very true. There we go, and then I'm just lining this up again. So it's exactly the same for these other two blocks. You're doing literally exactly the same thing, lining this up at the beginning and the end to get as closer. Oh, did I run out? I have. I ran out halfway through. So at least I knew it was happening and I didn't sew all of them together. Oh, go on. There we go. It's always when people are watching you that you can't get the thing to thread. So that's, oh, that's a tiny little bit on the end there. I hear we've had a message in from Sandra. Morning, Sandra. Oh, this is the lady who messaged in earlier to say I was her favourite presenter. Thank you, darling. Saying, as a beginner, this is brilliant. She's learning loads. She's saying, I will, all in capital letters. She will, and oh, she's buying and starting block of the week. Oh, she loves it. Oh, Sandra, that's so kind of you. Thank you. She's got an idea. She thinks it might be ambitious, but she's going to make block of the week matching curtains. What a great idea. That is brilliant. I like that. Got to think big. Oh, I think that's a great idea. I have actually been asked if we're going to be doing curtain coordinates with it. Not sure we can. But doing this as a quilt for a curtain, that would be lovely. And if you're doing it in front of a door that's normally got a draft or something through it, you'll be able to then protect yourselves against drafts as well. Nice insulation there for your home. Right, so now you've sewn your 4 pieces together. And I know we're running a little bit over 10 o'clock, so thank you for bearing with me. But now you get the whole block together. And you can see when I run out of time, I press to the dark side. There we go. And then this one, I'm going to press. And the great thing, what I like to do is, as a semi-beginner, having only started 6 years ago almost. I like the fact that this is actually, because I think everybody gets overwhelmed with quilts and things, but if you actually just break it down into a really bite-sized, manageable pieces, you know, if I tell you to do the whole block, you're going to go, nope. But if I tell you to then go and do a half square triangle, you're thinking, oh, I can do that. Oh, a half square triangle's not so bad. I can do that. And then if I say to you to do another half square triangle, then you're thinking, oh, that's not too bad. But then, and then before you know it, I've got you doing 16 half square triangles and you've made a block. So now you've got a 4 patch. You can see these 4 patches go together. So exactly like we did in the middle, trying to make our triangles kiss, you've got 2 little gaps there. You're going to do exactly the same, trying to make those 2 kiss. And you're going to make those 2 kiss there. So let's start with those. Now again, if you want to pin this, please do, do whatever you like. Because we haven't got very much time, I'm going to just power through, and I know your points will be better than mine will be. I love the fact I'm hearing we've got a lot of people checking out on block 1 still. I love that because it's nice to know people are getting involved and liking the idea. I think it's great. And the good thing is all the YouTube pages and on all our social media pages as well, you'll be able to then go and find block 1 as a separated hour, and you'll be able to then start from the very beginning with us. Oh, that's not bad. Not perfect, but not bad. There we go. So I'm pressing that to the dark side because we're running out of time. Pressing to the dark side. And what's so handy when you press to the dark side like this, you're actually then got an ability to nest your seams. And if you don't know what nesting your seams means, I'll show you now. So we've now got 2 pieces that we're going to sew together. Now on this side, you'll see our seam is going that way. And on this side, our seam's going that way. So when I put these on top of each other, you'll be able to then get the seams going in opposite directions, and you can then just butt those fabric bits together and have them going in opposite directions. So again, you've got those little triangular bits to meet in the middle. So the first bit is fine, the beginning bit is fine. Then on this bit here, we've got our triangles to meet. So I'm lining those up just by sight. You'd be using a pin to make sure that's nice and accurate. And then these 2 nest together perfectly there. And then this one as well, we're trying to meet those 2 little points up there. Brilliant. I think I missed that point, so I hope you're going to forgive me for that. And there we go. That is your block finished. Now, before I open it up and reveal, I'm going to set my seams. And I'm going to look at it first and reveal. Oh, I did miss that seam, but the rest is not bad. So there we go. That's your block. And now I'm just going to double check that that's the correct size. 15.5 by 15.5. Woohoo! Now, again, if this comes out at 15.25, don't worry. If it comes out at 15.75, don't worry. If this comes out as 18 inches, you've done something wrong. So that's when you worry. Then I would unpick and recut, and then what it is that you've not trimmed your triangles down. So there we go. That is our block number 6. So on our block number 6 here, this is the vintage colorway. This is where it's going to pop into our quilt today. Try and do that and show you where we are there. So that's where that's going to flop in today. We've got 3 colorways that you can choose from. That's our blue colorway behind us. This is our vintage. It is definitely the most popular that we've got on the show. And you're going to get the instructions and your fabric panel. So obviously I've just cut the vintage instructions up. So we are going to be, if you're going to be getting the brights, this is the colorway that you're going to get as the bundle, and you're going to get the instructions. Yep, holding that the right way around. And if you're going to do the blue colorway, you're going to get the same instructions and you're going to get your fabric panel as well. The vintage one you've just seen me cut up, so you know exactly what you're going to get there. So that is number 6. That is what we're doing for number 6 there. So I'm going to just quickly recap all the blocks that we've done. Let me just get rid of these fabulous rulers and our lovely rotating cutting mat. I do think that you've seen how much I use that rotating cutting mat. It is a really good investment if you're going to be doing these projects. So we've just shown you the brights and the blues on number 6. So let's start back at the very, very beginning as to what we were doing. This is going to be the set of instructions you're going to get for block number 1. And we're going to start off with blue. So you can see that's our blue block that you're going to end up with. And you'll end up with loads of fabric left over as well. So that's our blue colorway. Then we're going to do our brights colorway. There's our brights colorway. And again, you're going to get, this will be your finished block. You'll get loads of fabric left over. You're getting the instructions with them as well. And then we've got the vintage colorway as well. Again, you're going to get these with the instructions. This will be the finished block in the vintage. And that's block number 1. And then block number 2 looks very different. There's block number 2, and we've got our blue again. And we've got our brights. Got our brights colorway there with the instructions as well. And obviously the panel that you get, you're going to have loads of fabric left over. And then we've got our vintage colorway as well on this. This is block 2. And don't forget, all of these videos are all on YouTube. You'll easily be able to catch up with all of those. And I'm on social media as often as I can be, so you'll be able to then ask any questions that you need to of me online as well. So you're going to get the instructions if you're going to do block 3. There are the instructions and the finished block in our blue. And we've got our brights colorway as well. And we've got our vintage colorway as well. Vintage is proving to be the most popular, followed closely by our blue colorway. But you can see why it's such a beautiful colorway, that one. So that's number 3, which means if you get to that point, you're a quarter of the way through. Then we've got block number 4. So again, you're going to get the set of instructions, and you'll be able to make block number 4, which looks like that in the blue colorway. And then you've got our brights colorway as well. Sorry. Got our brights colorway there as well. And finally, we've got our vintage colorway here as well in our block 4. Again, each time you order the panel, you've got loads of fabric left over. Perhaps not quite enough to make 2 blocks out of each one, but over the periods of time, you've got more than enough fabric to play around with and then have a go on other blocks and other colorways. For block 5 in our blue colorway, it's going to look like this. I think I'm holding the block upside down, but you'll forgive me for that. But the great thing about this block is completely non-directional. You can do it how you like. We've got our brights colorway. I think I've also got this the wrong way around, but there we go. And then we've got our vintage colorway here. And that's block 5. And I've just finished block 6. So if you have got things in your basket, please make sure you check out on all of them. Don't want you to be losing out on anything. And if you've got any questions, please do contact us on social media. We'll easily be able to answer all of those. And what a great show. I'm very excited. If you haven't seen the full quilt out, let me show you the full quilt. This is in our vintage colorway. So this is what the quilt's going to look like. I think I've got a little bit of a crease in the bottom there with a border. So you can see that the 12 blocks on there are all so different. but I wanted to be able to push your talents and techniques and your learning curves to be able to get to a different place and be able to make different things with it. So that is the block that you're going to get. But what's so lovely is you've seen it in that direction, but equally, if you hold it like this, you can see it's a totally different quilt being on its side, but again, completely non-directional. And even if you wanted to put it this way. And lastly, you can see any way you put it, it's going to work really, really well. A vintage colorway is the most popular at the moment. Come on, don't fall down. You're doing so well. Ugh. So, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back in a few minutes once we've reset the set. See you in a minute.